Hello.
And video. Look at that. It's
Hi
like
guys, how are you?
great. How are y'all?
Good.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you for having us.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, thanks for doing all the legwork, Mallory. You did everything.
No, I'm happy to. This has been a part of a really cool homeschool unit. I'm the snake loving mom that is like, yeah, sure, let's learn whatever. And our budding herpetologist here has been big
Hi.
on YouTube stuff, and was Dr. Hunter was nice enough to meet with him, and then he said, you may reach out to Carl Barden. I was like, I mean, all he can say is no. So
So Casey is a avid herpetologist,
Wow.
and mom is homeschooling, and they're talking about snakes right now. They spent a little time with Ray, and Ray said, hey, maybe you could talk to Carl, and Mallory thought, well, what the heck? The worst they can say is no, but we didn't say no, and here we are.
yes,
Great.
thank you.
You explained I can't.
Oh, and Mallory, he can't hear anything, so you're gonna have to, after you say something, give me just a second to repeat it.
Okay, gotcha. Will do. You want to just start with your questions, buddy?
Yeah. Wait, where do you want to say?
Right there. Start at the beginning.
How old were you when you started handling snakes?
How old were you when you started handling snakes?
I got my first snake, Casey, when I was 6 years old. And now I'm 57. So I've been working with snakes for about 51 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wait, what was his first snake? I wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your first snake?
What was the first snake?
My first snake was a garter snake. And I had it a couple of months, and it bit me one night. And it frightened me, and I moved my hand real fast, and it flung the snake across the room. And then I was afraid to pick the snake up, and so my poor father had to come in and catch the snake. And my dad didn't like snakes, but he did it for me, and we got it back in the cage. That was my first snake.
It's like your dad. We have a daddy that's terrified of them.
And your grandpa.
And my father, yeah.
Yeah.
Grandpa.
For me, but
My
Well,
dad doesn't like them either.
Be patient with him, and hopefully you can teach him about them.
We've tried. We'll keep it up, right?
I read you used to be a pilot. Do you still fly?
You used to be a pilot. Do you still fly?
I haven't been in an airplane in about a couple of years now. So I used to fly, of course, an airliner. And then when I got out of that business to run this business full time, at first I didn't have time to fly. And then I got so far out of it that it took me a little while to go get current again. So I rented a plane a couple of times right before the pandemic and did a little flying, but not since then.
Cool.
What are your hobbies and interests?
What are your hobbies and interests?
Well, I have lots of hobbies and interests. I like to fish, and I like to be outside, to go to the beach and swim and that kind of stuff. I like music. I like to play the guitar. I like to read. And I really, really, really like to be around snakes.
You want to tell them what you did today?
Yeah, I just went fishing like a couple minutes ago.
A couple hours, and you
Yeah.
caught your first fish.
Yeah.
A couple hours ago, and he caught his first fish.
Oh my gosh.
First
look at that
fish.
beautiful bass.
Amazing.
That's a
Yeah.
What
great
a great
fish.
picture.
See?
What
Same
were you
shirt and
using to
everything.
catch him?
What did you use to catch him, Casey?
A red wiggler and a fishing rod, but
Well, yeah.
Wow, that's a beautiful bass.
Yeah, it is.
That's
you.
neat.
how many different snake species have you handled?
How many different snake species have you handled?
Not so many, probably all told probably maybe like 70 different species. And right now we only handle like less than a dozen regularly, even though we advertise about 28 different kinds of venom. Some of those snakes I'm not handling so much anymore. But I think all told, everything I've ever handled over the last 30 years, probably been about that, like 70 species. And as you know, there are hundreds of species of venomous snakes and thousands of species of snakes. So I've just scratched the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When did you find out you were allergic to venom? And what
Let's see. I don't know.
Would
Let me see. Can I read it?
hognose affect you?
Yeah, because you want a hoggy, but
Yeah, I really want one.
he has a sister allergic to ant bites.
Oh,
and
okay.
so
Which
So
possibly
she's
means I
allergic
could
to
be
ant
allergic.
venom. Okay,
Oh.
so here's the question.
he's
How-
not, but his sister is. Yeah.
When did you know that, when and how did you find out that you were allergic to venom?
Mm.
And if you are allergic to other things or like venom or like to ant venom,
Mhm.
would you be allergic to hognose venom?
Mm.
And is that something he should worry about? He wants to get one, but his sister is allergic to ant bites.
Yeah. So I first learned I was allergic to snake venom way back in 1993. And what had happened, Casey, was a local snake handler who had a venomous collection, got bitten by his pet copperhead and it killed him very rapidly.
Oh my
Died
goodness.
in about 10 minutes. And that's what's called a venom allergy. So a buddy of mine who runs a serpentarium in St. Cloud, he came and spoke to the reptile club I used to go to, and he told us about being allergic to snake venom and how dangerous it can be, because people often don't know, snake handlers often don't know that they've developed an allergy. So I went and got some what are called EpiPens, which is adrenaline, epinephrine, the drug you use to counter allergy. And a month later, I got bitten by a little cobra, about a 20-inch cobra. One fang on my thumb, this thumb. And my buddy who owned the other serpentarium had described what venom allergy feels like, because you go into something called anaphylaxis. And after I got bitten by that cobra, I was working with my then girlfriend that night, and I knew that I was going into anaphylaxis. I could feel it coming. So I shot the 2 EpiPens, the 2 shots of adrenaline to keep me alive. And then I lost consciousness. And my poor girlfriend had to do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation because I stopped breathing. So then I got rescued. The ambulance came and I spent the night on a ventilator from the cobra bite. And I got through that cobra bite. And then I knew I was allergic. So that's when that all happened. It's been about 30-something years ago now. But would somebody who already has a proclivity to allergy be allergic to snake venoms? Possibly. It's not for sure. It just says that, okay, that person produces something called IgE, which is the chemical in your body that is responsible for allergy. So if they have an allergy to ant venom, it's possible they could develop one to hognose venom, but they would have to be exposed to it first. So they would have to get bitten by that hognose, or they would have to be around that hognose and breathing in what, like some of his dry saliva, in order to sensitize themselves. So it's very unlikely they would be sensitive, but you could also pick another type of snake, like a corn snake or a ball python, and you wouldn't have that same problem.
So it sounds like Mr. Carl learned the hard way.
Yeah.
That's the definition of
Sounds like you
learning the
learned
hard way.
I learned the
Yes.
hard way, and nobody wants to learn that lesson the way I did.
No.
It's dangerous.
Goodness.
So there's a possibility I could have one.
Okay, well, so that's a daddy thing. We're
Yeah.
working on him.
So
We're
you,
working
so
on
there's a
it.
possibility I could still have a hognose, and then Mallory said, well, we'll talk to Dad.
All right,
It's a
we'll
daddy.
see. But there's lots of other cool snakes out there if you don't
Yeah,
get a
there
hognose.
is.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's terrified of all of them is kind of the
Oh, poor
So,
Dad.
yeah. Our personal
My
video
gr-
folks.
My
so.
my grandpa's like, I've seen mouth trace people before. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. My dad's worse than
Mallory's
dad.
father is telling Casey that he's seen cottonmouths chase him before, and Casey's a little skeptical of that story.
Oh, that's kind of true. Cottonmouth stories get pretty crazy sometimes. People
In
come
the
to the Serpentarium and tell us some nutty stories.
Right.
Cottonmouths are kind of cranky and grumpy, but they're not usually aggressive.
No, but he's convinced they are. My father is. So
What is the most common snake you extract venom from?
What is the most common snake that you extract venom from?
The snake we handle the most is probably the Eastern Diamondback rattlesnake. Casey, that one, and then next would be Southern Copperheads and coral snakes. So those three venoms we produce a lot of every year for the antivenom projects and for some what are called diagnostic drugs. And then cottonmouths and cobras, Asian cobras are the other two we handle lots of.
cool.
What kind of medicines other than antivenom is it used for? Any current cool research projects going on?
So he was curious, what other medications is snake venom used for? And is there any current research happening with it outside of antivenom?
Okay, so antivenom is the big one. And then sometimes you'll hear of other drugs that originally use snake venom, but now they make the molecule synthetically. So there's a drug called Integralin, and it's a post-heart attack medication. It's a blood thinner. And when they first made it, the active ingredient came from the pygmy rattlesnake. It's called barberstatin, and it came from our own dusky pygmy rattlesnakes. But then they had a company synthesize that molecule. They make that barberstatin in a lab now, so they don't need it from the pygmy rattlesnakes. There's another venom called Captopril, which is a blood pressure medication. And originally when they made it, the venoms came from South American pit vipers called lanceheads. But now it's the same thing. They make that thing in a laboratory. So oftentimes a snake venom protein will start the research, Casey, but then when the drug company wants to take it to where they can give it to people, they'll synthesize the molecule they need so they can get it easily. Does that make sense?
So they kind of look at the effects that it has. So if it's like a hemolytic, it's going to make people bleed, then they know that's good to prevent clotting, right?
That's
So
right.
they're going to take that and see, okay, can we isolate that one chemical, right? And then use it to make a medicine.
That's exactly it. So Mallory said, so they look at what the venom does.
Yeah.
And then, for instance, if something's hemolytic and it makes you bleed,
Yeah.
then they can use that in order, like use that little tool to figure out how to isolate it and help with blood clotting.
Right.
So it make medicine that way.
Exactly.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. What's your favorite type of snakes? Venomous and non-venomous.
What is your favorite type of venomous snake? And what is your favorite type of non-venomous?
It's really hard for me to pick my favorite venomous because I love so many of them. But right now, I'm really, really partial to coral snakes. And also, we have a big coastal taipan here named Apollo. And we love that guy. He was a gift from a friend of mine. And he's a beautiful snake. He has big red eyes and he's big blonde head. He's really cool. And non-venomous snakes, the indigo snake, the eastern indigo snake is my favorite non-venomous.
Love him.
You know that guy.
Love
He's
them.
a cool snake.
Sure. I knew it was going to be probably an elipid, you know how? His email address.
Mallory said she knew that your favorite would be an elapid because your email address.
Right. Oh, that's good thinking. Most people don't know what that means, Mallory.
Yeah, I was like, elapidae. Got it.
When did you decide you wanted to open a place to the public.
When did you decide that you wanted to open your place to the public?
Well, probably when I was a little older than you. So the first time I ever saw Bill Haas, who ran the Miami Serpentarium on TV, I was about 12 years old. And I used to think, I think that's what I want to do, what that guy does. And so then, you know, I spent a lot of years working as a pilot as I built my Venom lab, and then I decided I was tired of traveling. I was tired of being gone so much, and I was tired of working 2 jobs. I had the Venom lab going and I had the pilot thing going. So finally, I decided to leave aviation and open it to the public. And that was 14 years ago.
Wow.
But
Bill
the Venom
Haas.
lab's been here for 22 years.
The name we've heard a lot, right?
Yeah, recently, yeah.
Well,
You've been hearing a
because
lot
who
about
else?
Oh,
Who else was
wow.
influenced by him?
Bill Haas was the neatest.
Yeah, Ray Hunter mentioned him as one of his main influences as well. Ray
said
Hunter
his
and
big
Yeah.
influences. Bill was one of his big influences.
Sure,
too.
sure. Bill Haas was probably the greatest snake handler there will ever be.
and he lived so long.
To
He
100.
did live so long.
Yes.
How many visitors do you get each day at Reptile Discovery Center?
How many visitors do we get every day?
Well, it varies. Like on a day like today, I think we had probably about 100 people through here today. And so some days it's really quiet. We might get 10 people the whole day. And then other days it's really busy where we get hundreds of people in a day. So I think every year we do about 10,000 visitors a year. I think that's about right.
Cool.
Most of them, about half of them are kids like you that come with their first grade or their second grade, that kind of thing. And we always hope that some of them will go out and become herpetologists.
We had planned to come for my birthday, actually. But my husband works for our local sheriff's office and was ordered in to work,
Yeah.
and it didn't work out. So
Dude, sorry guys.
we will get there
We
though.
were gonna
'cause-
come for Mallory's birthday,
Yeah.
but her husband works for the sheriff's office and his department was ordered in.
Oh,
So I
okay,
couldn't
okay.
leave. Where are you
Yeah,
guys?
where are you guys?
Orange Park, right
yeah.
outside of Jacksonville.
Oh
We're
my
not
gosh,
far
you're
at
so
all.
close. Orange Park.
Oh, good. I know Orange Park.
Yeah.
Sure.
We'll
Yeah.
be there. We'll be there. Don't
Oh,
worry.
great. Oh, I'm so glad. Sometimes we're talking to kids and they're in like Michigan
Idaho.
or Idaho, right?
Yeah, no. We're
Okay.
about an hour and a half
Y'all
away.
close.
What else? Oh yeah, that was a good one.
We saw you tube feed a coral snake. I know Bill Haas did that with some cobras. Is it something specific with lapidus not eating well in captivity?
Okay, so he saw a YouTube video of us assist feeding coral snakes, and he also saw a video of Haas tube feeding cobras. So is there something about elapids that they don't feed on their own in captivity?
So not really. In fact, so let me tell you that when Bill started in the 1940s, he had just gotten out of the war, and it was the late 40s, and there weren't a lot of people keeping snakes in big numbers as pets. There were a handful of zoos around, and he spoke to some of those places, and there were a few other snake parks, but people didn't know as much about snakes and keeping them in captivity as we do now. So most elapids are actually really hardy. Cobras and mambas and taipans and all those guys, they are really happy to feed. They eat readily, and most of them will eat lots of different items, birds or rats or mice or chickens. But coral snakes are snake eaters. They're cannibals in the wild, and they're very hard to switch over from snakes. Like king cobras are snake eaters too, but we switch our king cobras to rodents very easily. They're very easy to do it. We just what's called scent the rodents. We use snake blood to scent the rodents, and the king cobras eat them. And then once they've had a couple of meals like that, they just eat rats. Coral snakes don't do that. So because we have about 50 coral snakes and we can't get 50 snakes every 2 weeks to feed them, we have to tube feed those guys. If I could get like 50 baby rat snakes every 2 weeks, the coral snakes would eat them. They'd be happy to eat them, but I can't get them. So that's why the coral snakes get that feeding tube. And they get a chicken-based mixture with a bunch of stuff, multivitamins in it, and they do great on it. Lots of our coral snakes have been here for like 10 years.
It's like what's in
All our
chicken
other
nuggets.
lives are eating
right?
rats, mice, chicken,
Right.
all by themselves.
Yeah.
How many feeder animals do you go through in a month?
How many feeder animals do we go through a month?
Oh, man, lots. A couple of thousand a month.
Wow.
Yep, we get a couple of thousand rats and mice and chickens frozen every month. And we burn through those guys, plus fish and crickets and all kinds of stuff. Biscuits for some of the tortoises. And so there's a lot of
It's a
food.
lot of food.
Costs us a lot of money to feed all these snakes.
Wow.
Uh,
Why didn't you ask about what do they feed? Remember we had to transition Iris from live to frozen thawed, thankfully. Why don't you ask them what they feed?
what do you feed?
Say live or
Do we feed our snakes live or fresh killed or frozen thawed?
Most of them eat frozen thawed, about 75 or 80%. A handful of them eat fresh killed, and one snake or two snakes will only eat live. I have a big Eastern Diamondback. She will only eat live. And sometimes our babies want live food. But most of the time, they're happy to take frozen thawed.
much safer for them too.
Yeah.
Mm.
What do you think is the best starter snake for kids?
What do you think the best starter snake is for kids?
In my opinion, either a corn snake, a red rat snake, or a ball python. Those are the two easiest. They're the two most common. They're the two that are most well known. So there are like all kinds of forums on the internet about taking care of them. So both of those guys, they live long, they're gentle. Those are the two easiest starter snakes.
I love a ball python.
Yeah.
We-
I'd love to have a ball python.
So,
We had a leucistic rainbow boa that was a
Oh.
rescue, she was beautiful, but it was like rainbow boas are so beautiful. Why would you get rid of the colors to begin
Why
with?
would
You know,
yeah, wash them out.
she's blue,
So
little
Mallory
blue-eyed
was saying they
Lucy.
had a rescue sister rainbow boa, and she said it was
Ooh.
kind of a funny thing because rainbow boas are so beautiful on their own. Like, why would you wash them out like that?
Right. Cool.
Yeah,
Casey, are you gonna get a snake someday?
Probably.
we're working on daddy. So we were able to
Okay.
take in,
We're working on
we were
that.
we were able to take in the rescue because it was my best friend's daughter's snake, and
Okay.
she had to rehome it, and so it kind of was like, surprise, we
Oh,
have
yeah,
a snake now. Which you can really only get away with once,
Oh,
apparently, in a
God,
marriage.
look at that, yeah.
Oh, so we're working
So
on
they were
that.
able to take in the first snake because it was a friend of hers daughter's,
Oh,
and Dad kind of showed up and surprise, we have a snake. You can
We
only
have a
really
snake.
get away with that like once.
right.
Do you have any snakes as pets?
Do you have any pet snakes?
Well, it's so funny because in a sense, all of them are my pets or Mara and I's pets because we own all 1,000 of them. But we try not to think of them too much as pets. But you know what? We have a few back there, like non-venomous snakes, that we really love. You know, I mean, they're like family members. And
Mhm.
even though they're not in the house anymore, we still kind of think of them as an extra special, you know?
Mhm.
So does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean-
Usually we have no snakes in the house, but right
Mhm.
now we have a few venomous snakes that we're raising in the house.
I'm trying to find the picture, a good picture of you holding Iris
Oh
to
yeah,
show
when we
them.
first got her, when we were
No,
at the
she
park,
was a noodle then. No,
yeah,
when she was a little older.
yeah.
I'm looking. Hang on. I'll find it.
Is your venomous bite count still 11?
Still only 11 snake bites?
Still only 11 snake bites. That's what we're
Yay.
hoping to stop. Yay. That's what we hope will be the same answer in 10 years.
Amen.
Just say, have you traveled to other countries for snakes? If so, where?
Have you traveled to other countries to pick up snakes? And if so, where did you go?
So I have traveled to other countries, but not so much to bring snake bats. So I've been to Costa Rica and I've been to South Africa and I've been to, but those trips were kind of unrelated to snakes, even though they're very snaky places. And we have lots of friends in other countries that do what we do. They collect venom. So we know the guys in Australia, we know the guys in Africa, we know the guys in India. So we hope to make that trip someday to go to some of those places to see their operation.
The place I'm probably most want to go is Costa Rica, probably.
The
You
place
think
he
so?
most wants to go see snakes is Costa Rica.
Oh, that you're gonna love Costa Rica. There are crocodiles and volcanoes and snakes. and-
Volcanoes?
yeah, that's a
Yeah,
cool
that.
place. You're gonna love Costa Rica. Yeah, and tons of reptiles.
Yeah.
How many employees does Reptile Discovery Center Center
So is it how many employees
yeah.
do
How many
you know?
employees do we have?
Gosh, right now we have 5, and then we also have an intern. So it's
Big.
usually like that. Yeah. You know, so 2 of those or 3 of those are part-time employees.
Yeah, I found a picture I have to show.
Oh,
Casey with he was
That's a great.
such a baby face
Oh, that's cool.
with Iris.
Where
Yeah.
was that?
That was just here at our house. That was our. You can
that
see her
was
blue eyes.
Rainbow Walk.
Oh, how cool.
Oh, she's
She was
beautiful.
Look at that
gorgeous.
thing.
Yeah, she was such a
Wow.
sweetie.
Yeah.
Such
Oh,
a
how
sweetie.
neat.
Right?
What does it take to get behind the scenes tour?
What does he have to do to get a behind the scenes tour?
Well, our lawyer would say you have to be 18.
Right.
That would be the first thing.
It takes a
But if you
decade.
guys know you're coming and you contact me ahead of time, we'll see what we can work out. We might be able to do something special with you and your folks.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Is that,
Where you at?
I don't know. I was right here.
Okay. Let's see. Did we ask everything?
I think so.
Oh, no, here. You missed that one.
Yeah. My dad is terrified of snakes and my mom freaks out flying. What else do you do that is scary?
So dad is terrified of snakes.
Yeah,
Mom is terrified of flying.
yeah.
What else do you do that is scary?
Oh, I ride motorcycles. That's kind of fun. I really
Yeah.
like doing that.
You
That's
skydive.
awesome.
I rode it.
That's kind of
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah, I rode like a power wheel at Josiah's house, but
That's so not a motorcycle though, buddy.
yeah, but it does go pretty fast. I'm not gonna lie. It goes like I would say like 10 miles.
Right. Which is so not a motorcycle.
I know, but
Yeah. A motorbike that goes 10 miles an hour. And
Not the same level.
These are big motorcycles that go fast.
Real deal. Real deal motorcycle. All right. Did you have anything else?
actually, yeah, I think we're maybe done, but
Well, I mean, we got
Be done if you're done.
yeah, we've got undivided attention. So if you think of anything else, oh, what about worst bite?
oh yeah, worst bite. What's the worst bite you've had?
What was your worst snake bite?
Ooh, I've had a couple of bad ones. I had a cobra, like I said, put me on that ventilator all night. I was unconscious for the whole night. Then my last snake bite was a rattlesnake bite to my face.
Yeah.
I had an Eastern
When you
Diamondback
fell on
snake.
it, and then
Yeah,
it
that's
was like-
right. And that was 6 days in intensive care, that snake bite. So
Yeah,
that
it
was a
stayed
bad
in
one.
there too for a minute or two.
Right.
But yeah.
What's
Yeah.
happening?
No, we saw the story about how you kind of had
Oh, you
to
got- they saw that.
had to kind of
Oh,
remove
you're
it
right.
from your
That's right.
yeah.
Don't ever get bitten by a venomous snake, Case.
Not in the
It's
face.
no fun. Oh my heavens.
I really want to get on now because I like
Right.
the adrenaline rush that I might be venomous to it or not.
I've
That's
got
a
a
good
nice
spot.
big snake hook and I'm on standby to help relocate in our neighborhood, but
Oh, that's
Yeah, remember
great.
when we were gonna get Dunkin' Donuts and then the cottonmouth was in a van?
yes, we've had some cottonmouth encounters.
And
They're
Mallory, if you ever need a little bit of training, or if you ever would like a little bit of, you know, venomous hooking or whatever, you're welcome to come, and we'll have to help you out.
thank you. Yeah, it's oddly enough, so I'm a behavior analyst as my job, and some of the group homes where I consult, twice now there's been snakes in the garage, and one in the garage and one on a back porch that was screened in. That I joked, you know, this I'm the epitome of the full service behavior analyst. So I'm like, I've got my snake hook in my van, and they're like, you have what? I'm like, yeah, let me grab it. And I'm on the floor with a flashlight and a snake hook.
Did
Look,
you
and
find
it was, I mean, it was rat snakes. It was
Oh,
nothing,
rat
you know.
snakes, rat snakes,
but-
the group home.
Remember the time when there was a cottonmouth next door and I'm like,
Oh yes, Casey was very cocky at about 6, and when they were developing the subdivision next door, he was at the neighbor's house. His little friend is about a year younger than him, and he was next door, and he comes running in the house, and he's like, "Mom, there's a cottonmouth next door," and I was like, "Well, then I'm glad you're home," and he was like, "You think I can't handle a cottonmouth?" And I was like, "You're not handling a cottonmouth. Thank you very much."
Ooh, that one would have hurt.
I'm like, no, I'm in charge of you, and I'm certain you're not handling one. So sit your booty down, right?
I'm glad. I'm glad your mom's looking out for you.
So Ray Hunter told us about an Eastern Diamondback he gave. We watched the Coyote Peterson videos, of course.
Okay.
Kids are big Coyote fans, and the venom yield on those, I mean, that splash of venom was like, what? And then Ray said that I think he said that he had given Carl an Eastern Diamondback, and then there was an extraction, and it was like the same kind of a sploosh. And I don't know if it was the video we found or not, but any comments on the venom yield difference?
So Mallory said that Ray had said that he had given you an Eastern that had a beautiful venom yield, and they had seen on Coyote Peterson also that same massive yield from an Eastern Diamondback, and they were hoping that you could comment on that. Is it like an individual thing? Is that typical for Easterns?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both. So that snake that came from Ray Hunter, that was years ago, but that was a phenomenal producer, Mal. I mean, that was a really good, and production runs across the gamut. So we have some snakes that bite like that and huge amounts of venom. Some of it is a function of size, although not all of it. Some of it is a function of how long it's been since the snake last has bitten. Has it been 14 days or 28 days? That kind of thing. So there's a bunch of variables, but big Eastern Diamondbacks can be really solid producers.
Do you think it hurts them or harms them I know we don't use the term milking because snakes don't have nipples, but when people squeeze the venom glands and kind of force it, do you think that there's risk of damage there? Because we've noticed you don't do that. You guys don't do that.
Mallory and Casey have noticed that you don't squeeze the venom gland, and they were wondering, do you feel that it damages the sample and or harms the animal when people do that?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's pretty good data out there now, science out there that says, yes, it does in fact damage the venom gland, especially over time. And that, yes, you wind up with all this additional kind of cellular debris and this kind of stuff in your venom sample, which normally wouldn't be there. So blood cells and epithelial cells from the gland and all that stuff can be filtered out and cleaned out. But the real consideration there is the animal. So just like anything that you do, you probably wouldn't want somebody squeezing your head right too hard. So we kind of steer away from that. Sometimes we'll tickle him a little bit or agitate the snake, or I'll put my finger on the top of his head just to annoy him in the hopes that he'll really, buckle down and give us some venom. He decides how much. But we've really gotten away from squeezing the gland. Yeah, most extraction outfits don't do it anymore. Years ago, that old term milking the snake.
Right.
Years ago, that was kind of the way they did things. Anymore, you see it sometimes, but not too frequently.
I remember seeing, so I grew up in Ocala and Ross Allen being at Silver Springs.
Sure.
I remember the rattlesnake show there, and
you saw Ross.
Yeah.
And of course, in the 50s and 60s, Ross would get 10,000 rattlesnakes a year. Those days are gone. The snakes are just not out there anymore. Not like that. So, he could get away with kind of going through animals quickly. But boy, everything's changed now. We so treasure our Eastern Diamondbacks, and we try to take the best care we can of them. And
the only time I've seen one at all in the wild, was a year and a half. My husband and I lived in South Carolina. That was it. I've never seen one in Florida.
Wild was for a year and a half. Her and her husband lived in South Carolina.
Yeah, right. Okay, cool.
It was huge.
South Carolina is still pretty good and snaky.
It is.
Every
it's
place,
very good
of course,
and
is
snaky.
facing development problems, but it's still pretty snaky. Georgia too, still pretty snaky. And west of you guys, west of Jack's, there's still pretty good areas out there.
Yeah, I like that. There's super west. Copperheads in Florida, but that's super west. I see a lot of misinformation about their range.
What's the range of a copperhead?
Well, the southern copperhead is throughout the southeastern United States, from like just the very corner of North Carolina all the way down through the coastal plain. They only come into a couple of counties in the panhandle of Florida. But if you then look at like the northern copperhead and southern combined, almost the entire eastern half of the United States, all the way up into Massachusetts. So they're really coming, but not down into Peninsula Florida. Like they don't even come down where you guys are. There's a few counties northwest of Tallahassee that have copperheads, but that's it in Florida.
People will swear they do, but they don't.
I know little baby rat snakes often we see as people think they're copperheads. Baby cottonmouths often were mistaken for copperheads.
Right.
Do you know Dr. Bush, who does like the show Venom ER?
Did
Did the show.
I sure do. We sure do. Yeah, Sean is a friend of ours, and he is a wonderful guy and a great snake bite doctor and a gentleman.
Yeah, gentleman in his collar.
Yeah.
Cool. He's on our list. So
Yeah.
Oh, he's the nicest guy. You guys will love Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He really is.
So
a great
him
dude.
too.
we were pretty stoked when we could from Florida look at symptoms and go, what? That's a Southern Pacific rattlesnake bite based on the symptoms on Venom ER. We were like, yes, we've made
he's
it
a good
big.
doctor, Sean. He's a good doctor.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else? Should we share Papa John's ridiculous story?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can.
So the reason my father is terrified of snakes, he was about 5 and he caught a little black racer, which is in and of itself impressive because they're quick.
Yeah.
And he squeezed it and it bit him. And so he squeezed it harder. And so it bit him again. And they had this power struggle for about 5 bites worth of squeezing and biting and squeezing and biting. And both of his parents were at work. So he goes inside where, being the 50s, they had a maid that was there all day that was watching my father. And she was like, Johnny, what happened? And he's like, snake bit me. Panic ensues, right?
Oh no.
She calls and can't reach his mother or his father. So she takes off running down the road with my dad as a 5-year-old. And as he describes it, his little feet are barely touching the ground, right? Like he's like, which would have just killed him faster, And they get to the hospital there in Ocala. They call Ross Allen.
Oh, how funny.
Who apparently was a little busy with like more important things to do and took a while to get there. And so, as my father explains it, for about 2 hours, he thought he was dying, like at any given moment.
Yeah, so it was a little black racer and he would squeeze and the snake would bite him and then he would squeeze harder and then the snake would bite him and the squeeze harder and then the snake would bite him. And then he ran in and finally let go. And then the maid said, what happened to you? And he said, snake bite. And the maid lost it and ran to the hospital. And they called Ross Allen, but it took Ross about 2 hours to get to the hospital.
Oh my goodness.
And
Poor
he goes,
dad thought he was dying for
he
like
goes,
6 hours because the maid had freaked out.
he looks at his hand, he goes, non-venomous, and walks out.
That's a great
Thank
story.
goodness it was.
Thank
That's
goodness,
really
exactly.
funny.
But it was like, since then he was fine with him before that, but since then he's been terrified. So
Oh, well, that'll do it, I guess.
I guess trauma like that as a 5-year-old can stick. Yeah.
I mean, it would still probably hurt because.
Well, bites hurt regardless.
Yeah. But it won't hurt as much as it's because if it's venomous, you're gonna hurt a lot more.
Well,
That's true.
yeah.
Non-venomous bites still kind of sting a little bit, but not nearly as bad as the venomous ones.
All right.
What?
Ask Mara. Has she been?
Have you been bitten?
I got bitten by a Gila monster one time, and that's it. My whole life.
What was that?
No
like?
more bites for Mara.
No more bites.
I like
It's
that.
this
Your
one.
total is small. It's a 12 between the two of you. That's
Yeah, that's
much better than what was Bill's 173?
Yeah.
And Ray's was like 54. So
Yeah, Bill and Ray were
keep it
That's a
low.
whole
Keep
nother
it low.
league.
yeah.
That's a whole nother league.
Yeah, no. Well, thank you guys so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's so nice to meet you guys.
You
We
too.
look
You
forward to
too.
seeing you.
Yeah.
I will
hopefully we'll see you
definitely
guys
reach
soon.
out and let you guys know when we're heading that way.
We'll be here.
Hop on
careful out there,
95 and check
Casey.
it all out.
Yeah, have fun, you guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Take it
guys.
easy.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.